Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 28. Today, we will continue setting up the distribution offices, buy a couple extra trains, and continue expanding the town. All the while, the track layers will start working on the coastal train ride, and once we make sure that it's all going as planned, we will focus on dealing with the local issues. The majority of the running time will revolve around the trains, but we will definitely make time to work on the city too. Our unhoused population is growing, and we need to deal with that soon. First, let's make sure the tracks are all set to be active. I would hate to do a whole episode, and discover in the end that I forgot to unpause things. Next, we need to deal with this distribution office. It is still doing some of the jobs that are now done by trains. No need to waste any more fuel on this. Gravel, for example, we have trains for that now. Same for all 4 of the building materials in the open storage. We have steel and boards made locally, and we can just import the rest in bulk. We might as well go for it. We have the money for a second distribution locomotive, and might as well buy some of the remaining wagons, like the open carriages. I did make a small mistake here. I bought a pair of dry bulk cars, because I forgot that the cement silo is not hooked up to the train network. Oh well, I'm sure we will end up using them eventually. Next, let's get rid of this office, so it stops selling steel. Same as before, we will use trains for that now. At the moment, we can only distribute the steel, but later on, we will have a second train in the export office too, along with the same set of open wagons. And you know what, might as well set up that too. Sure, we don't have the wagons, but once we do, it will be ready to go. It already has the 50% threshold set. Later on, I will end up raising it to 80%. In the meantime, the second distribution train managed to bring in the first set of new cars. We still have a dry bulk wagon in the customs house, so let's just go and grab it. I'm still a bit annoyed with myself that I bought those 2 cars. There is simply no room for a dry bulk station at this point, so they are pretty useless right now. As for the road distribution office, we can also get rid of the fuel and bitumen deliveries. Now that we have open train carriages in the distribution office, we might as well start importing some of the materials in bulk, instead of relying on the slow trucks to deal with it. I did forget that we have boards ready to go locally, so I ended up buying a couple tons of the stuff. No big deal, it's super cheap anyway. Once this steel gets dropped off, we should see the first import job for those construction materials. Oh, yeah, also we need to fix the gravel drop-off station. My reasoning for using two-way signals there was to allow trains to turn around in the station if necessary, in case their next destination was in the same direction they came in from. Right now, we only have one place to turn around, in the town distribution branch. There is nothing like that in the other way. But this also introduced an issue I discussed in my old signal tutorial video. The two-way setup could allow two trains to enter the junctions at the same time, trying to get into the same platform, if they arrive at the same exact time. Sure, our current situation does not allow for this to happen. We can only bring in gravel from Udegrad, and the only possible next destination is the distribution office, but I'd rather not rely on the current situation forever. Let's plan for all eventualities. Anyways, this is that one delivery of wood. I will soon remember that we have a domestic lumber industry, and fix the situation. There we go. All better now. Might as well take the boards off the possible imports. Now that the train distribution is chugging along, we need to start working on the city a little. I wanted to buy a second train for the export office too, but preferably without having to take out another big loan. How about we extend the waterfront before we build any new buildings? Let's fix that gap. This is why I like to place these just a little bit too close, so they overlap ever so slightly. That guarantees zero gaps. Before we turn this back, let's extend the shoreline, so we can place them properly. Perfect. We can continue with the waterfront embankments, and this should be another long segment. We can use a few of the 100 meters long pieces. Also, good thing I remembered the building mirroring. It's so much more comfortable when I can zoom in on the side I'm working on, instead of having to wave the mouse cursor around on the opposite end. Maybe one more. Now they just need the footpath connections for the vehicles to reach them, and we can start the construction process. This one doesn't have to be pretty. They only need to be accessible for a little bit. Especially the corner pieces, they are purely decorative. Only the long pieces have a small sports service function. There. Once they are all done, we can lower the ground, and reveal the embankment walls. Technically, we could do it now, but I prefer to do it after. Now, I was a bit bummed that I was too fast at sending these guys to the road depot. But there's no way I want to bother setting up a new office just to sell this one load of steel. Anyways, let's check on the Kirkomov distribution again. Whenever I need to make a lot of small changes to an existing system, I'm always a bit anxious that I forget something. Like this. We have trains to deal with the steel and the boards now. Also, maybe we should start using the Kirkomov storages for supplying the rail construction office. No need to go all the way to the border at this point. This is the last check I make on the coastal rail tracks. Right now, the office is waiting for gravel. Once that's all sorted, work will proceed. I wanted to speed things up a little, by adding these 3 dumpers to the Kirkomov office. That coal could be dumped without much hesitation. But the office was full already. Since it no longer dealt with moving liquid stuff around, I could park the 2 tankers in the road depots without reservations. But then I noticed that we already have 4 of the slow dumpers moving the gravel around. It's just that I accidentally set the customs house to import for that stuff, and they immediately jumped on it. Once this is done, they will only use the Kirkomov aggregate storage, so it should all be good. And the track layers are off already. It should be smooth sailing from here. While the town was busy building the embankments, I thought it was time to expand our export capacity too. For that, we ended up needing one more loan. Just a simple $500K installment, no need to go any bigger this time. This time I made sure to pause the game immediately after sending the locomotive to the depot. That way, we can turn it around immediately, so it doesn't have to go for a round trip around the town distribution branch just to pick up the wagons. Anyways, this time, I only bought the open hull cars. We still lack the box cars to complete the set, but we don't need those just yet. The only thing they could be used for on the current network would be to import components for Kirkomov. For that, I don't mind using trucks a little bit longer. And with that, we can start exporting steel and boards. And you know what, let's give selling coal a try as well. I will end up stopping this particular job later on, but it doesn't hurt to give it a go. Let's just add gravel too. Should cut down on all those traffic jam notifications. And I think I would feel better if we waited for an 80% fill on the storages before we went for a pickup. That does mean we will not export a couple things for a long while, but I think we can weather it for the time being. Anyways, one load of boards go for almost 5,000 rubles. Not the best, but if we have this much waiting around, might as well make some pocket change on it. The coal and gravel are a bit more profitable though. At this point, we have way more college graduates than we really need, so I think it's pretty safe to start some research. We can continue churning out diplomas once they are done anyway, it's just a short setback. With the new waterfront, I thought we should build some new housing. The number of unhoused adults is rising, so let's help them out a little. And you know what we haven't built in this playthrough yet? Those tall apartment towers. I think they would be the perfect choice for some beachfront housing development. As I was looking at the roofs, I noticed that there is a point where we could attach two of them together, so they would look like a single building. Yeah, let's do that. This should spice up the skyline a little. I think I will leave the two middle entrances. They can just be done with decorative gravel textures later. I think it would be best if we do the usual control group thing before we let everyone in. Let's not allow people to settle in just yet. And you know what? The new waterfront could allow us to have the same exact setup a little bit further down the beach. Yeah. This will be great. Plenty of space around them for some extra services too. Now, we still need to connect them up to the footpaths, so that's what's next. Maybe if we build a little bit of the ones coming off the road first, then we can make nicer connections. Yep, exactly what I had in mind. Some of these footpaths are past their usefulness, so we can trim them back at this point. The thing about these two new houses is that they are definitely too far away from the local bus network. We will absolutely need to add a new bus stop, so they could move to the main bus station for out-of-town work. This place would have been perfect for one, but it was just ever so slightly too small. A real shame. I suppose this will have to do. And the curse of building things not aligned to the grid strikes again. The road is at an ever so slightly different angle than the buildings, and not even the fine rotation could fix that. We will have to redo the entire street here. As far as I could tell, the only real service shortage would be shopping for these new apartments. They are in range for the original shop, but it's already pretty full at this point, so I think it won't hurt to build another one. Sadly, this Ukrainian supermarket had its road entrance at an awkward place, so I ended up going with the usual small shopping center. I don't really know why this particular footpath connection was being difficult. I don't recall ever having a conflict with the road connection on this particular building before. Oh well, No big deal, we have plenty to choose from. The good thing about these towers is that they have a capacity for over 300 workers, and we only have about 400 adults waiting for housing. Once they are done, they should last us a little while. Oh good, we can repay that $500K loan we took out earlier. Only the $1 million installment remains. And this is where I will give up on exporting coal. The power station's supply is perfectly okay, but with the current setup, none of the coal will ever make it to the steel mill. I was prepared for this, but I still thought I would give it a go. I think we should focus on one pair of towers first, and then we can move on to the other two. I really want to start doing the viability experiment as soon as possible. While that was going on, I thought we can move on to the embankments. No point messing around with the grass before the terrain is in its final shape, so let's quickly take care of the coastline. Now that's what I call a nice waterfront. We can start dealing with the grass now. Same as before, we could allow the grass to stick out over the green areas on the embankments, and once the dirt is dry, we can just trim back what's not needed. While the towers were building, I thought I would take a quick look at the personal cars. I wanted to make sure the colors are as varied as possible, so I did a bit of checking around with the vehicle list, since they were all over the place in the parking lots listing. If we could sort them, that would be a big help. These T603s for example. I would prefer if the only black ones were in the secret police HQ. The rest should be a bit more colorful. The first pair of towers is coming along nicely. Now that the Kirkomov storages are enjoying a steady supply of materials, it's all down to the throughput of the construction vehicles themselves. On that front, we could do better. Some of the better trucks might be coming out fairly soon if I remember correctly. Those CAMAZ trucks should be available in a couple years. Notice that ever since we started selling excess gravel, all those annoying traffic jam notifications suddenly disappeared. We are not bothered anymore, and we make a bit of extra cash. Win-win. And look! A new personal vehicle became available. Let's buy a pair of them. Sadly, they are only available in red. I'm fairly certain it's the Lada 2106, but let's double check on the list of vehicles. Yep, that's the one. Let's get 2 of them. There is only one free space in the car park though, so to make room, we need to sell something. Thankfully, we have 2 of the Maluks in the same yellow color, so it's not a hard decision. They are still the only model we have more than 2 of though. Now that the dirt is dry around the embankments, we can start trimming the grass in places it is not needed. The trimming was a bit too aggressive in a couple places, but it's only really noticeable up close. Alright, one tower done. And the other one is not far behind either. Before I move on to decorating the front entrance, I really wanted both to be completed, so let's just follow the last couple deliveries. While the truck was driving by the forest, I remembered that I really wanted to make it a bit more thin, so the city could be seen from atop the elevated railroad embankment. So, let's get it done. No need to go crazy, we should still leave a couple clusters of trees around. Also, it should still be pretty dense right around the track layer display. I think that will do it for now. And both towers are done. Have to say, I think they look pretty nice when put together. Now, let's see how we can decorate the main entrance. The obvious first step is the asphalt texture at the road connections. That little space between the 2 doors is perfect for a long flower bed. Next, let's fix these awkward footpath connections with a bit of extra textures. These 2 doors are technically proper walkway connection points, but let's just use the cosmetic ones, no need for functional paths. And that created another perfect spot for some more flowers. And all that resulted in a nice little spot for a decorative monument. Sadly, even the smaller of the 2 Lenin statues are too big for it. Technically it would fit, but it would also block the view from some of the windows. Let's just go with the obelisk. It's less of an obstruction, and is small enough to fit into this space. As for the other two spaces, they are perfect for some greenery, so let's just put a pair of acacia trees and some bushes there. One of the bushes didn't want to cooperate. Oh well, it should still look nice. And before we stop the episode, let's deal with the new shopping center. First, we need to set the space allocation for the goods. Then, we can tell the town distribution office to start moving goods to it, but not the meat. That one we will do the traditional way. And done. This guy will go to the freezer, pick up a full load of sausages, and wait for a full unload at the shop. I really like the way this one turned out. We have plenty of space to fill around them, so even if the test inhabitants come back with some complaints, we should be able to fix those fairly easily. Anyways, that's about it for today. I completely forgot to check on the coastal railroad once I was sure it was actually building itself, but rest assured, it is progressing very well. And I'm fairly sure I made some mistakes in the new distribution setup, so I will need to make some more checks to be extra sure. As for the new housing towers, they should be okay, but I already know that the ones already done lack power, so that will also have to be dealt with. Thankfully, it seems houses only really need electricity to power the heating and water pumps inside, and since we are not playing with seasons and water, it's not really an issue in terms of happiness. I would still prefer to have it on, so we will definitely need a new substation in the next episode. Anyways, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, then leaving a like and subscribing to the channel just might motivate me to make more. If you are more in the donating mood, you can find a link to my Ko-fi page in the description, where you can buy me a glass of water. I don't really drink coffee. Thank you for your support, and until next time, I will see you later.